candle burns at both ends, it will not last the night. But ah, my foes, and oh, my friends, it gives a lovely light.
Hello, lovelies. This is going to be a bit of a rambling video of just stuff, looking forward into the new year, and letting everybody know where I am, sort of. I guess you get a lot of that around the end of a year and the beginning of a new year, but, well, there you go. There's a lot of new subscribers, so here's who I am. My name is James Grimm Desborough. I've been called Grimm since about 1990 or thereabouts. It's a nickname I got in college, which stuck. It was originally intended to be an insult, but I took it on and I claimed it. So you'll find me as Grimm or Grim Jim or Grimachu or Grimasaur in various other places that you care to find me. I have worked professionally in the RPG industry since about 1998, but let's call it 2000 for the ease of maths, and rounded up to 25 years, so a quarter century, which is a very, very long time. Even before that, I did hobby publications, fanzines, that sort of thing, since, again, I guess about 1990 or so. I've worked for Mongoose Publishing, Steve Jackson Games, Cubicle 7 Entertainment, Wizards of the Coast, and various others. These days, I mostly publish for myself. I have a reputation, which even a cursory web search will find lots of negative things about me, but I assure you that I am, in person, perfectly lovely. I just have some rather strong viewpoints about art and censorship and that sort of thing, which uncharitable people have represented in a negative way. So I hope you will stick around, but I will understand if you don't. So, 2024. I am absolutely exhausted. I don't want to say burnt out because that creative urge is still there, but I am exhausted. And this morning a big wave of depression has settled over me. For those of you who don't know, who are new, I have been a diagnosed major depressive since about 2007, with a lovely dose of general anxiety on top of that. So I try to be a mental health advocate, but more of an advocate for resilience, I would say, than indulgence. But it's, it's a real medical thing that I've had since about 2007. I flipped on my music player, and the first song to play in the new year was Big Buzz by Killing Joke, which is a song about keeping going, feeling grateful, about still being alive, still laughing after all these years. The older I get, the more I tend to identify with Killing Joke's music and with Jazz Coleman, the frontman, especially his various struggles with drugs, alcohol, depression, mental illness. Of course, we lost Kev Geordie Walker in November of last year, guitarist for Killing Joke, perhaps the most influential person when it comes to their sound. So perhaps Killing Joke will never be the same again, or might not keep going anymore. There's some sort of grim irony in that's worth a wry chuckle that I'm sure Kev would appreciate. But that kind of sets the tone, I suppose. See, I was supposed to take 2023 as a bit of a sabbatical and not work as much and do other things just for the fun of it, just, things I enjoyed. And I didn't. Wizards of the Coast shit the bed in January, and that kind of set the tone for the whole of that year. It was constant reactivity to various things that were going on, creating stuff. Like, I churned out a public domain version of the D&D rules in like a couple of weeks, and just about did myself in doing it. And the rest of the year, it was kind of like that. Things never seem to end. So I'm going to try again in 2024 to try and take it as a sabbatical from my work. But it's only the second, and I already feel this great weight and pressure of depression that has settled over me, and the same weight that I felt in 2023 of obligations. You're probably aware of spoon theory. I don't subscribe to spoon theory. I would characterize my issues as more like a cartoon ball and chain that you would see on a prisoner, so that everything you do requires more effort due to inertia, and sometimes the ball and chain are smaller, sometimes they're bigger, but it's a task to get the whole thing moving, and then you have to keep moving, because if you stop, you've got to overcome that inertia all over again. So what I've often done is that I have created a web of obligations as motivation to keep busy, because if I'm obligated to somebody else, that creates the necessary motivation that I don't necessarily have left to my own devices. And if I keep busy, I'm not left alone with my thoughts, because if I am left alone with my thoughts, they corner me and beat me up. It's not like I don't want to do these things before anyone thinks I'm being resentful or hate the fact that I do all these things for other people. It's just that things start to feel impossible, like I'm never going to catch up, like I'm never going to discharge all my obligations and have any time for myself. And every obligation creates a cascade of demands on my time and my energy that makes things difficult, if not impossible. Like today, it is the 2nd of January 2024. I have to upload a product for a friend whom I want to support, and that may be for multiple sites. So that's actually more work than it sounds like. I have to prepare for a tabletopless session tonight, and that is a performance to an audience that pays. And while I love running games for my porn friends and love doing tabletopless, and it's a joy, not a chore, it's still pressure and a weight of obligation, and the obligation to perform something I'm sure that the people playing also feel. But that takes work. And previously we would play very late, so prepping for tabletopless, banking some sleep and recovering the next day would basically knock 2 days out of my week for work, for something that doesn't pay a great deal, actually. Not that it's about that, but that was a pretty hefty obligation. Hopefully with an earlier start time, it'll be easier for me. But that's something I love to do, but it still creates pressure. I have to finish a project that I started at the end of last year and paid for the art for, so that needs to go out and needs to generate money, but I just can't face it at the moment. I have to finish generating NPC stat blocks, and I have to commission art for an adventure that I paid to have written, which needs to go out and earn money. It's the first working day of the month, so I have to do my accounts. I have a dental appointment coming up, which is looming over me, and if you have anxiety, you will know that appointments in the near future can mess up your days until you have that appointment. And every week I have a game to run or to play on Sundays, and the Weekend Geek on Saturday to contribute to, which requires me to be aware of pop culture shenanigans and goings on. I have a YouTube channel, which you're probably listening to this on, and there's the pressure of the algorithm and the way YouTube censorship and control channels and directs your attention and the kinds of things you make. You're constantly aware of that pressure, and even success, like the reason I've got all these new subscribers, that creates its own pressure to keep producing content, to keep producing similar content over and over again. I've been actively trying not to dwell on the hatred that I get, but even praise is difficult. I've never been good with compliments. I've never quite known what to do with them. There's something very English about the way my mind and body rebel at praise, the disgust reaction that I get whenever anyone says something nice about me. Yeah, I have been called good things, one of the best games masters, but I've not been happy with any game I've run in a very, very long time. Called the smartest guy in the room. I don't feel like it. I feel blunted, foggy, can never quite find the magic turn of phrase to get across the ideas that I want to in the way that I want to without setting someone off. Called a designer's designer, that I know more about games than just about anyone, but it's honestly all kind of a blur in my head, and I can't instantaneously absorb new systems in the way that I used to. So even compliments are difficult. The hatred, though, even when I'm actively trying to discount it and pay it less attention, or even know categorically that it's wrong, that sticks. 2023 had a lot of hopeful moments. I feel to an extent like my reputation has been repaired, so I expect to have to pay off the King in Yellow at any point. But I don't know what to do with it. I am frustrated and, yes, freely admit, jealous of the success of projects that I see as unadventurous fantasy heartbreakers that don't push the art form. Yeah, MCDM, yeah, Shadow Dark. They're not the products I'd want to make ever, but it is frustrating to me that these sorts of milquetoast fantasy heartbreaker projects enjoy such success, while other ideas, not even mine, that are much more deserving go relatively unsupported. I aspire to make games as art, to see RPGs in their construction and in play as an art form. And I can hear the RPG pundit raging at the very idea, something about swine. But while not high art, I think they already are art and already contain art, and we should be reaching to new and interesting ways and means of creating this art. And instead, we see self-censorship and unambitious nonsense doing well critically and commercially, and that hurts my little black soul, or would if I believed in such a thing. If I wanted to just purely make money, I suppose, in my position with my audience and my reputation, I should become an OSR creator. But do we really need more OSR systems in an already crowded, nay, saturated market? I don't think so. I don't know what to do with myself, what direction to go. Rage and reaction can only take you so far, though some of my best work is done in that kind of situation. I guess I need to discharge my obligations and try to get comfortable in my own skin so I don't exhaust myself trying not to think about things. I would like to engage in my hobbies as hobbies and take up the things that I've had to set aside for a long time. I want to read for pleasure. I want to paint miniatures again. I want to play games for the fun of it, purely for the fun of it. I want to catch up on media that I have been absent from, TV, film, whatever. And I want to work on the things that interest and engage me in the moment more than the things that I feel obligated to do, I suppose. To that end, then, going forward in 2024, I'm going to put the emphasis more on short projects, things that catch my whimsy and motivation, probably not really announcing much ahead of time. And I'll put more effort into supporting and mentoring others and into my side hustles where people don't know who I am and the work can speak for itself a bit more. I'm also going to put more emphasis on my Patreon and here on YouTube where I can express myself, but I'll try to do that with less of an eye to the algorithm and the subscriber count. Tortured artist is such a cliche, but I do hope you'll come along for the ride. Zang.
Bitch, where's my money? If you want to help me out, you can subscribe to me on Patreon, which is Grimachu, on Subscribestar, which is Grim-Jim, or if you want to make a one-off donation to help support me and keep the channel going, you can do so at paypal.me/JDesborough. Thanks.
Disappointment.